Hi, and welcome back to the Measured Golf YouTube channel. We're happy you're here and learning about ground reaction forces. And one of the things we want to talk about today is how there's a couple things we want to look at when it comes to ground reaction forces. So obviously we have forces that are magnitudes, but another thing that we want to look at as well is something called pressure and how that pressure moves throughout time and space. So when we start talking about how pressure moves, one of the easiest ways that we can look at that is through how the center of pressure is moving as we move. So when we get on the dual plates, what you'll see in the video is that there's a little white dot in the middle, and as I move, so does that white dot. And that actually isn't my center of mass, which is of my body, that's actually my center of pressure. And when we talk about how that center of pressure moves, we're really talking about how we see that center of pressure moving across the feet. And that's what we want to talk about today, is when we're talking about pressure, that's kind of what we tend to feel when we're playing golf. So I know a lot of golfers will understand the next thing we talk about. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about what we feel that we are doing to the ground. And more importantly, what we're going to try to demonstrate is a couple ways to where we can clean up how we're using the ground so that you can learn how to hit the ball farther and straighter and definitely see some big time improvement in your golf game. So one of the things we most commonly see here at Measured Golf when people come in for a coaching experience is that they tend to use way too much horizontal force. And we've actually went about kind of calling this the classical golf swing. And what we're talking about, too much horizontal force, we're talking about the pressure moving across the feet in a very side-to-side or linear motion. So once again, looking at our swing catalyst dual motion plates, and this is actually the pressure, so this is actually powered by the sensor edge portion of the equation. But we can see that as I move side to side, the trace is moving very much side to side and very linear. So we're not really creating any kind of that anterior posterior shearing effect like we talked about in our torque video and wanting to make sure that we're creating plenty of torque, right? So how do we create more of this shearing effect and get our pressure moving backwards and forwards across our feet or towards and away from the golf ball versus moving side to side where we tend to have too much horizontal force? All right, so now that we're talking about how pressure moves across our feet, we probably need some clues as to if we know whether we're doing that or not. So one of the easiest things to see and feel and kind of look for yourself is when you look at the feet of a golfer, what we'll see a lot of times is that when a player's using too much horizontal force, we'll see that their lower body and their knees are moving outside of their ankles in kind of a side-to-side fashion. So it won't look as extreme as that, but we can see here where even though down the line it looks like I've done okay with my swing, we can also see that my lower body is really outside of my instep on my right foot. And I haven't created very much rotation and twist at all, okay? Rather, I've just kind of slid to the right. So we could clearly see how the pressure would be moving straight back along my toe line this way versus getting it to move more back into my heel versus rotating this trail hip. So it's really, really key and important that we're not seeing this ankle supinate away from the target. We want to definitely try to stay pronated with our trail foot, definitely feeling like our tibia or the bone between our ankle and our knee is leaning towards the target. And then from here, we want to feel like we actually rotate and make that right hip move back and up because that's the way the pelvis actually works, is more back and away from the target this way. So once again, we don't want to see the ankle moving out to the right. Rather, we want to see it working back and in. And we can see now that my hip is staying more stacked on my instep and my trail leg, which creates a very nice brace for me to be able to turn my upper body against during the backswing. And this is how I'm able to keep my pressure from wanting to continue to move right because I've created this brace which stops my pressure. And now as I finish my rotation, my pressure can start moving back into my lead side. So we talked a lot about trying not to create too much horizontal force and trying to keep our right foot from supinating or having our right knee and right hip moving away from our target. So when we talk about pronation supination, I think this is a really clear point that needs to be distinguished because for most of us as golfers, we didn't go to med school. So if we didn't go to med school and we don't understand these terms, that's okay. But we do need to understand what we're trying to accomplish. So I'm using here a blackboard, which is a great tool that we can use to really help people understand how they use their feet. But we can see that right here, my foot is more flat and parallel to the ground, and most people start from this position here. However, we want to try to create a pronation through the trail foot using that ankle to push the head of the first metatarsal into the ground. That's what we're trying to do there. And then from this position, we want to turn against that point and rotate against that point with our lower body. And then from here, like we talked about, we can move the spine back and away and extend. But we can see once again that that keeps a nice brace. It keeps my upper body from wanting to move away from the target. So once again, keeping pronation is really, really key to keeping the pelvis in line during the golf swing. And when I say in line, what I mean is that we don't want the pelvis moving all over the place in 3 dimensions as we're trying to swing the golf club. We want to do a nice job of creating the shearing effect around the spinal column. And even though there is some side-to-side movement needed in the golf swing because we move low point forward, we also don't want to get to where we're creating so much side-to-side that we need a lot of timing to match this up. All right, so we've had a great conversation about what we tend to see at Measured Golf in terms of people coming in and having way too much horizontal force, which makes it really difficult for them to be able to take advantage of the ground reaction forces that most people are wanting to use to hit the ball farther and straighter. So we've talked a lot about what this kind of looks like in terms of too much horizontal force being a problem with moving too much side to side across the feet versus moving in that anterior posterior shearing effect kind of way. So we've talked about that, we've shown it to you. Hey, this is what you might see while making a swing. But my man Will here is actually going to demonstrate a great drill that you can do to start working on trying to stay a little more pronated in your feet and allow you to create a little bit more torque and rotation with that lower body. So Will, we're going to go ahead and get him set up here, and you can tell this is a really simple drill to do. You don't even have to have these alignment sticks. You can make do with a couple golf clubs if that's what you have available. But you'll notice that we have Will set up pretty narrow. And I know that he probably plays golf from a little wider base than that. But the reason that we're setting him narrow is because, once again, we don't want to create a lot of space to start moving side to side. Rather, we want to keep it kind of confined. And he's going to stay in this very confined space and work his way back away from the ball while making some little short swings. So he's going to demonstrate for you. He's going to step back, make his backswing. It's going to be really nice. There we go. And we can see that he's having to stay in that space. And we can see that his feet are staying nice and glued to the ground while he does that drill. He's not getting all wobbly on his feet and seeing the knees move outside the ankle joints. So that's looking really, really good there, where Will is just moving back and forth. We're not really moving much side to side. And he's actually creating a very nice arc and a very nice wide lower portion to his golf swing there by taking advantage of creating space for the golf club to move. So this is a really great drill that's going to help a lot of people because, like we talked about in our series on ground reaction forces, it's really, really important that we take advantage of torque because it's needed in golf due to the fact that we stand next to the golf ball. So Will did a great job with that drill. I definitely recommend that. It's a great warm-up drill. As you get better with that drill, you can add speed and really kind of get it ramped up. And that's a great priming drill that you can do when maybe you only have 5 minutes before your tee time. So we hope you found this video very helpful. Please make sure to hit the subscribe and like button so you never miss one of our future videos. And until next time, keep grinding.